What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be going over some of Reddit's most terrifying confession stories. And if you guys are enjoying the content that I'm producing, of course, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe and maybe comment down below to push this video out further into the algorithm. But with that all said and done, let's get on to the first story. Now, this first story comes from Reddit user MagnetLink5824, titled, I was kidnapped when I was 8 and held in captivity for 3 years. 26F. I was picked up by a stranger from school posing to be my dad's friend, saying that he would drop me off to the airport to catch a flight with my dad. Not only did I actually have to travel with my dad that day, but this man somehow knew my dad was getting off early from work, he told me this morning, and that he had to go fishing with his friends. He did that a lot. He told me that my dad sent him to pick me up and meet him directly at the airport. I believed him, convinced my teacher I knew him because I was actually excited to go to the airport, and I left with him. I was held in captivity for 3 years. I was raped, beaten, starved. 11-year-old me had learned to make him trust me. It started with us going around in his car. Although I had to sit in the back seat and stay quiet the whole time, he'd let me come in the kitchen and make myself food. He'd let me clean his house. The day I went to feed the ducks at the park, I ran as fast as my weak legs could carry me. Because of the crowd, I think he lost me. I begged the family for help, telling him I was kidnapped and I wanted to go home. I told them my name, my school's name, and my parents' name. Long story short, they caught him. He killed himself. I was back with my dad, my sister, my dogs. I'm now happily married to my wife of 4 years, still undergoing therapy. I have a good job and a baby on the way. Edit. I'm very sorry for the last line. I realize it doesn't end well for most and I got lucky, but the only way I kept myself going was telling myself I'm going to escape, and then I'm going to get better. I'm going to love myself again. I'm going to get past my trauma. Since this worked for me, I assume saying it will end well will work for other people too. Of course, it wasn't right though. Now, I don't know if the Reddit user actually edited the original story to remove the last line or what, but I mean, honestly, I really don't think that the user should feel bad for anything. I mean, I just can't believe it. I mean, getting kidnapped when you're 8 for 3 years, so you're 11 coming out of it, that's 3 years of your childhood just gone like that. So I'm actually very happy that OP was able to come out of it and still stay positive and live a better life. The top comment actually shares a pretty interesting story. My mom set up a password with me that only I knew. She said that if there was ever an emergency and she needed to send someone to pick me up, she would tell them the password. A woman approached me after school, said my mom had sent her to pick me up. She had my mom's name and everything, but didn't know the password, so I didn't go with her. I ended up going to a friend's whose parents called my mom. Turns out my mom did send her, but forgot to tell her the password. Good intentions, but she was proud of me for remembering. Wow, that's a pretty smart mom actually. I think I probably might copy that for when I have kids because, man, it's ruthless out there, especially whenever you really consider how many people get trafficked every single day. It's a scary world out there, and a lot of people really don't take the time to consider how many people go missing every single day. Our next story comes from a deleted Reddit user, so unfortunately I can't give you guys that information, but the title is called, I systematically stole money from my elderly neighbor for months. This confession has weighed on me for over a decade. When I was 19, I lived next door to an elderly woman, Miss Henderson. She was sweet, forgetful, and lived alone. I'd sometimes help her with groceries or small tasks, and she trusted me implicitly. She kept a jar of cash on her kitchen counter for emergencies. It usually had a few $100s in it. One day, while helping her put away groceries, I saw it. A week later, I was short on rent. The memory of that jar popped in my head. I made my first move when I knew she was napping. I let myself in with a spare key she'd given me quote-unquote for emergencies. Took $40 out of the jar and left. My heart was pounding. She never noticed. That was the breach. Over the next 4 months, it became a horrible routine. Whenever I needed gas money or wanted to go out with my friends, I find an excuse to pop in and steal $20, $30, or $50. I always rationalized it. She doesn't need it. She won't miss it. I'll pay her back someday. I never did. I stole from her at least a dozen times. I estimated I took between $400 and $500 in total. She sometimes mentioned, confused, that she must have spent her emergency money faster than she thought. I just nod and change the subject, feeling like the worst person alive. I moved away for a job soon after. I heard she passed away a few years later. I never confessed, and I never made amends. I stole from a kind, trusting, vulnerable person who saw me as a helper. I violated that trust for pure, selfish convenience. There is no excuse. I was a predator to someone who deserved protection. The guilt had never left me. I am profoundly ashamed and sorry for what I did. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I had to finally admit it. Wow, just wow. What a terrible thing to do. And I get it, you were 19, you were young, but that doesn't justify taking advantage of an elderly woman like this. Especially at that age, you definitely know the difference between right or wrong. Hell, 8-year-olds know the difference between right and wrong. The very least that I can give to this person is that at least she is coming out, but it still rubs me the wrong way that she never actually ever apologized for it. She had so much time to do so. It just kind of makes it feel like you're only sorry now that she's passed away, but I'm not gonna dwell on this for too much longer. And I think the top comment actually makes a really sad point. The sad thing about this is, if you told her you were struggling, she probably would have helped you out. And I just couldn't agree anymore. This is a really nice elderly person who trusted you. She gave you spare keys, and I guarantee you, if you would have just asked for $40, I'm pretty much sure she would have given it to you. Another comment says, I think she may have suspected you, but didn't want to know the truth. And somebody actually replies to that saying, yeah, old lady here, she probably knew and kept that jar stocked for you. She may have understood your circumstances and your mindset better than you think. You should feel guilty though, regardless. Pay it forward and send some kind thoughts to the generous old lady who helped you out when you were young and too stupid to appreciate it. And man, I really hope that was the actual circumstance, because then it just makes the old lady seem a lot sweeter than she actually is, and it allows the old lady to forgive the younger, more dumb and naive OP without letting her off the hook. And man, we are kind of speed running through these, aren't we? But our third story comes from Reddit user WildDream5041. The post is called, I ignored a message from an old friend because I was pregnant and exhausted. They passed away 2 days later. I was pregnant and so sick. I had just moved to my new place that I hated, and I had very bad morning sickness. My husband was out most days. One night, I got a message from an old friend asking if we could talk. I was so tired and it was so late, so I just ignored it thinking I'll get to it later. 2 days later, I found Facebook flooding with posts about her death. Apparently, she slept and just never woke up. No one knows what happened. I couldn't tell anyone that she did reach out because I was truly ashamed of what I did. That was a few years ago. I still remember her every day, and I can't forgive myself because she was my high school best friend. Wow, that last line, high school best friend. And wow, this is just such a sad story. I have somebody very close and very personal to me who did go to sleep and never woke up again. And I remember very clearly that I had to go walk her dog the previous day. And normally when I got back home from walking her dog, I would sit around and, talk to her for a while. But I remember that day I was in a rush or something like that. Maybe I just wasn't interested, and I went home immediately without really saying goodbye or anything like that. And then, the very next day, she just never woke up again. So, I can really place myself in OP's shoes, and I understand, kind of kicking yourself, but really, it really isn't your fault. You never really know what's gonna happen to somebody, and that's why, you count your blessings every single day when you wake up. Cause life hits you hard, man. Really, just, if you're listening to this right now, really appreciate everybody that's in your life. Maybe reach out to them. We have another very disturbing comment that reads, my coworker was called by his brother. He did answer and talk to him. He killed himself right after the phone call. My brother called my parents one time. He couldn't get a hold of them. He was going to kill himself, but since he couldn't talk to them and tell them that he loved them, he didn't. Instead, he got the help he needed. He literally said, if I had talked to you, I was gonna kill myself right after, but I couldn't leave without saying goodbye and telling you both how much I love you. So if you suspect your friend killed herself, just know, talking to her wouldn't have changed anything. And even if you just feel guilty because you missed the last chance to talk to her, everyone has a last conversation with people. Most people don't know when that is or remember what was said. I don't remember when the last time I saw my granny before she died was. It doesn't matter. We had a great relationship and she knew how much I love her. I mean, and that just really adds to my point of, just enjoying everybody that you have while you have them. I mean, you will never remember exactly what happened. Not everybody has the best memory in the world, but you remember how you'll feel. And to be honest, that's really all that matters. So as long as you can tell yourself, hey, I enjoyed this person while she was here, then that is really all that matters, because eventually everybody passes away and time will just keep marching forward. Our next story also comes from another deleted user, but this story is actually one of my worst nightmares. This post is titled, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia and haven't told anyone. 23M. This year, after nearly 2 decades of hallucinations, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia. I probably shouldn't be terrified given I've made it this long so far with no medication or mental support, but I do. I feel like I'm finally being forced to actually confront and put into concrete what I've been dealing with my whole life. I've had hallucinations since I can remember, starting when I was about 6, give or take. I started having frequent, extremely vivid hallucinations involving relatives dying, sea animals swimming around my bedroom, being watched with cameras in the night, fires, paranormal creatures, most of the typical things and some odd ones. I remember being so confused and terrified as a kid, especially with the sea animals. They were my most common at the time, and everyone else around me being equally confused at why I was freaking out. Growing up, I was never brought to a psychiatrist or otherwise had anyone address them since my parents didn't believe in mental health. When I was a teen, they got better for a while, less frequent, maybe 3 large hallucinations a year. Around this time, they changed to things like my face being distorted or demonized in the mirror, car crashes and screaming, one instance of a cat torn open and strewn across my kitchen, and paranormal animals. They didn't bother me much then either, given that they were pretty sporadic. It was around this time though that the paranoia also started. I felt stupid to admit it, but that's when I started having thoughts that people were watching me through my window, or that I was being hunted, or that my pets were skinwalkers who were going to kill me. I still hold a lot of these paranoia thoughts today. Well, when I was 20, it got better for a bit. 2 years and no major hallucinations, anything lasting longer than maybe a few seconds. I still had the paranoia thoughts, but I thought that was something everyone else had, and to an extent I still do, but apparently not. 5 months ago, the hallucinations came back, bad. I started having multiple a day, I still do. Nothing more than a few hours at most now, but I can't turn my back in my kitchen without someone running behind me, and I can't look out my window at night without something being there. 3 months ago, I mustered up the courage to see a psychiatrist after I actually told someone about this, and they told me I needed to go get help while I still realized it wasn't real. Surprise, it was schizophrenia. No, really. I was shocked and wanted a second opinion, and I still do. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. When you hear schizophrenia, you think of someone completely crazy who can't function. But I function fine outside my episodes. I'm in med school, I have a job, I successfully take care of my pets as much as they scare me sometimes, and I've never been violent. I guess I just don't know what to think of it. I've been starting on my medication and it's helping me, I think. I finally let my cat sleep in bed with me again tonight without being scared they'd kill me, and I'm in regular therapy with a mental health improvement plan worked out. I guess I just don't know where else to talk about this. I don't want anyone in my personal life knowing. It's humiliating. I know I need to tell people, especially for my safety, and I regret the fact that I haven't, and that I didn't seek help sooner. But telling people feels like signing away all of my autonomy. People around me have noticed I've been off or jumpy and paranoid, but I just brush it off. Professionals are urging me to tell people. I just can't bring myself to. On the other hand, do you know how freaky it is to have multiple 10 to 20 minute phone calls or conversations with people only to be told they never happened? I really wish that was a cure. Edit, please stop DMing me saying things like you're watching me or that I'm actually in another dimension. Schizophrenia is just a really scary concept, especially just looking behind you and seeing somebody running behind a corner or oh, that's freaking me out just thinking about it. I'm getting goosebumps. But I feel like this person is viewing it in a bad light, and I understand, the taboo nature of telling people that you're schizophrenic, especially because I actually knew somebody at a previous job who was schizophrenic. And you have to realize that there's levels to schizophrenia. This person was definitely more on the deep end. He talked to boxes all the time, and he was always in his own world, always a little weird. But I never really truly judged, because that person is being stuck in his own head. I don't think that this is a bad thing per se. I mean, you got a diagnosis. You know what to do now. You know exactly what's going on with you, and now you can truly start seeking help. But I feel like if OP really doesn't tell anybody, then all of this will truly be stuck with just them forever. Or worse off, the hallucinations get even worse. They lose themselves and they have nobody to talk to about it, or nobody to help them with. I really hope this person enjoys the rest of their life, and I really hope that they get better at controlling their diagnosis as time passes. But before I go on to the next story, wow, what a bunch of weirdos. Like, people are really DMing this person who's coming out trying to gain some sort of support, and they're just coming in there being like, I'm watching you, I'm in your walls. Weirdos, man, just knock it off for a second. It's funny if you're just joking around and nobody's actually schizophrenic, but to do it on an actual schizophrenic person who actually has hallucinations and might freak out because of this, that's just evil at that point. Now this next one is a little bit of a weird one. This comes from Reddit user bpet42112. The post is called, I dipped my nuts in a glass of water and served it to my friend. Wow, just right off the bat, wow. Childhood friend of mine had me over at his house. We were about 13 or 14 at the time. We're 28 now. He was super lazy and only ever played Xbox. Never wanted to play split screen games and hardly ever let me play. So after being there overnight, serving him hand over foot every time he asked, getting him drinks and shit, I got fed up. And when he asked for water, I brought the cup in the bathroom, filled it with tap water, and dropped my drawers and wafted my nutsack to the water like it was a tea bag for maybe 10 seconds. Then, I brought it to him with a huge smile on my face and he chugged it, all without saying a word. Obviously, never told him, but I do feel really bad about it now and kinda just want to tell somebody, whether they find it funny or whatever. I don't really care. And I think this top comment kinda describes it perfectly. Going to another dude's house to serve him drinks and meals while he plays video games all day seems like a weird social dynamic. Well, granted, they were 13, 14, sometimes kids are pretty selfish, especially around that age. So I kind of do see him dropping his nut in a cup of water like an actual act of rebellion from a teenager, which doesn't actually justify the situation at all. But at the same time, his friend was being, like a master and servant, kind of having his friend do everything for him. So I don't actually agree with what OP did, but at the same time, I would definitely take it to the grave if I was him. Now for this next story, we're going to drop the mood exponentially from the last post. This post comes from Reddit user kind_membership33. The post is called, I saw my mother raping my father when I was a kid. Then she called me a pervert. My mother originally tried to leave my father, then he knocked her up with me. When my father tried to leave my mother, she raped him. This is when I was about 11 years old. I lived in a remote town, and for school holidays / Christmas, we would drive downstate to visit my uncle and cousins. My uncle had a 2-story house with a granny flat downstairs. The granny flat had several beds, e.g. a bunk bed, then 3 other beds. One double across from the bunk bed, then a single bed around the corner, and then some random stretcher bed. The idea was for guests or the kids to sleep downstairs. Upstairs had 3 bedrooms. Often on the school days, my cousin and I all slept downstairs while the adults got their room, and we, the kids, basically had a slumber party downstairs every evening. The adults often drank upstairs while we watched TV and played games. At some point, my parents split and my dad stayed with my uncle. My mother eventually took me down as usual to see my cousins. One night, my father, uncle, mother, and several other people were drinking upstairs while my cousins and I were doing our things. When we went to bed, my father stumbled downstairs and passed out in the double bed. Shortly after, my mother came down and started touching him, then trying to kiss him. My father literally told her to fuck off. Shortly after, my mother climbed on top of him and started raping him. I tried to leave, and while on top of my dad, my mother aggressively threatened to kill me if I left. My cousins left. I rolled over, then cried while my mother kept saying my name while moaning, and I think she was trying to make me watch. The next day I woke up being the only person in the flat. My father was hungover as fuck. My uncle threatened to beat the fuck out of my mother and father if they ever did that stuff ever again in his house. Then my mother cornered me to tell me I'm a pervert, sick, and a slut. I was too young to understand what happened. Now at age 30, I really wish my uncle had beat up my mother. She was projecting on me hardcore, trying to pretend I was a pervert and the sick freak when she was trying to force me to watch her rape my dad in a room full of children. I do actually wonder if she was trying to get pregnant again to try to get him to come back. Top comment explains it best once again. What the fuck? Because actually, what the fuck is this story? What a sick and evil woman. I mean, not only do you rape somebody, how low do you have to be to rape somebody? But to do it in front of family? That is disgusting. So let's go over her crimes, right? You have rape and you have sexual indecency in front of children. And not only that, you made your own child watch the whole thing and threatened to kill her if she tried to leave. This whole story is a dumpster fire. Oh my god, I am so glad that now looking back, the OP realizes how sick her mother is, and I really hope that she's no contact with this woman, because this woman deserves no love at all. And I don't know if this is kind of off topic, but this kind of really reminds me about how some people try to fix their relationship by having a kid. I mean, the mother originally wanted to leave in the story at the beginning before she got knocked up, and now for some reason, despite the fact that she was originally trying to leave her the OP's father, now she's raping him, which makes no sense at all. I mean, I don't know. I guess I probably shouldn't be trying to make sense of something that doesn't make any sense. So I think I'm just gonna move on to the next story. This next post comes from Reddit user PleasantBus5583, and the post is called, "I stayed silent about my best friend's affair, and I regret it." I need to confess something I knowingly did wrong. For years, I knew my best friend was seeing another man while being in a committed relationship. When she got married, I stayed silent. I told myself it wasn't my place, but the truth is, I chose comfort over honesty. I regret not speaking up before it was too late. By staying quiet, I became a part of the lie, even if I wasn't the one cheating. The wedding is over, the marriage has begun, and this is something I will have to live with. I'm not proud of my silence, and I wish I had handled it differently. The only thing I can say to OP that could possibly make her be viewed in a good light is that not everybody is mentally strong enough to be able to come out with the truth like that. I mean, that's just breaking for everybody, especially something like a relationship which can affect multiple people. I mean, it's hard to do, but it's something that you have to do, and not very many people can do it. But still, regardless, it's not late. You can still tell the husband, now husband, about the cheating. Does it suck they possibly spent a lot of their money on a wedding, a honeymoon, and everything? Yes, but it's still better now than later when they have kids and it's too late. We have a commenter here that says, "My best friend once asked me if I would ever cheat on my wife. I told him I won't answer that question. The reason why I won't answer that question is because you're my best friend. Why would I ever burden you with having to sit across from my wife, all the while knowing I was being unfaithful? I love you too much. I would never do that to you. But to answer your question, no, I'd never, ever cheat on my wife." I remember my friend really being struck by my answer and rarely letting it sink in. 15 years later, on his deathbed, it was found out that he was having a double life with many, many women. He was a traveling salesman, so it was easy for him. Everyone asked me how I could be so close to my friend and never had an idea that he was cheating. I always go back to my answer. My friend made sure I'd never been a burden by his affairs. I'm beyond devastated by what he did to his wife and kids. I hate him for it. At the same time, I'm profoundly relieved he left me out of all of it. It allows me to help his family heal without guilt and with total authenticity. And I'm a little bit on the fence on that story because on one hand, yes, there is no burden of having to tell the wife and kids. But on the other hand, if he had told him a lot sooner, then none of that would have ever happened and his wife and kids would have never been in that place to begin with. Our next story comes from Josh DH01, titled, I drank way too many beers at a campsite 20 years ago, and what happened next still haunts me. Alright Reddit, this is a story I've kept buried for almost 20 years. I don't know if it's guilt, embarrassment, or pure trauma, but today is the day I finally get it off my chest. So I was at a campfire with some friends. We were drinking craft beer the night before, the fancy hipster ones that taste like grapefruit misery but hit like diesel fuel. I woke up the next morning and instantly knew my stomach hated me. Not a maybe in 30 minutes kind of situation, I'm talking DEFCON 1. So I started wobbling towards my car to drive to the campground bathroom. My buddy's daughter, she was like 7, and the dog were hanging out by the fire. No big deal, right? Wrong. Halfway to my car, the beer gut punched me like a freight train. My body said, we're doing this now. I squeezed my cheeks harder than a hydraulic press, but nope, nature won. I shit myself. Bad. Like running down my legs bad. I'm limping to my car, praying no one sees me, and then I hear footsteps behind me. I look back and the dog is following me, licking and eating the trail I'm leaving behind me. I wanted to ascend into the astral plane. I'm mortified, covered in shame and IPA-fueled regret. When I finally get to my car, I sit in it, marinating in my own choices, and started driving to the showers. But here's where the real horror begins. I glance in my rearview mirror and see the dog trot back over towards the campfire. The little girl bends down to pet him like it's the best day ever, and the dog is licking her face like full cleanup mode. I almost puked right there in the car. I've never recovered mentally. I don't think I ever will. I took the world's saddest shower, came back and played it off like, haha, yeah, I fell in the river. Nobody mentioned anything, not a word. Not from the adults, not from the kids, not from anyone. The dog low-key saved me, but also committed an unspeakable war crime in the process. And this is the first time I've ever told a soul. Yeah, OP, if I'm you, I'm taking that to the grave, man. I don't even know why you posted that. I mean, it was very entertaining for me to read. Disgusting, but thankfully I ate before this. But don't worry, you're not the only one who's ever shit himself. Here's a comment that reads, I went on a date last month. My date asked me not to be late. Says he has a particular issue with punctuality. I drank 2 IPAs to calm my nervousness over a first date. Got in my car. Just as I pulled up to his house, I shat my pants and had to drive all the way home to change. Ended up being 45 minutes late, haha. Another time, I lived with my ex-boyfriend on his sailboat. His toilet was broken, so we were supposed to walk a quarter mile to the public restroom. He's at work, I'm hungover as hell, so I shit in a grocery bag, tie it up, and leave it up on his deck. Planning to grab it on my way out. Forget, leave, go to work. He comes home, I get a text like, did you shit in a grocery bag and leave it on the deck? Luckily, he was very in love with me, lol. Yeah, you know what? I don't really know how I'd feel about that. I mean, if it's my current girlfriend, you know what? I'd open up the bag and eat it. Okay, maybe I shouldn't be saying that. What am I talking about? But yeah, no, I mean, love definitely makes you blind to a lot of things. I'll tell you that much. Our next story comes from always_crying-2288. The post is called, I deal with immense guilt and regret because of this. I cannot forgive myself for these actions and it's been years. Hello, F18 here. I'm gonna share my story now. When I was very young, around 5 to 6, I experienced inappropriate sexual situations with other children at school and at home. At the time, I did not fully understand what was happening. I went along with things without knowing whether I wanted to or not. After one incident at school, adults explained boundaries to me for the first time. Around the same age, early elementary school, there was another situation involving a sibling where inappropriate sexual behavior occurred briefly. It stopped before adults became aware, and I did not understand the seriousness of it at the time. Between 7 and 8, I experienced additional inappropriate sexual contact with a cousin. Some of these situations were painful, confusing, and overwhelming, even though I believed at the time that I was agreeing. The situation stopped when adults were nearby and they did not continue afterwards. Between age 7 and 9, I was exposed to pornography at a very young age. I did not understand it fully, but it influenced my behavior and curiosity. Because of that exposure, I later reenacted things I had seen with siblings. These situations were brief, were eventually discovered by adults, and then stopped. Later in elementary school, there was a brief situation involving a cousin where inappropriate touching occurred, but it ended when the other person asked to stop. From around age 9 to 11, there were no incidents. Between age 12 to 13, I returned to watching pornography and again engaging in inappropriate sexual behavior with a sibling. This stopped completely by the end of 2021 and has not happened since. We were homeschooled before I went into my freshman year. So, if the user is 18, then that means in 2021 they were around 13 to 14, which is horrible. And it's sad to say that this situation really isn't uncommon, like, at all, and it happens to many males and females alike all over. I'm sure many of you guys, when you guys were younger, definitely heard a couple stories from a lot of people very similar to this story right here. It's incredibly disturbing how frequent child-on-child sexual behavior occurs, but it's kind of weird because you're children, but that really carries over into your adulthood. It leads to hypersexuality and all different types of mental disorders, so I really suggest OP learns to forgive herself, especially since she was a child and maybe possibly even seeking therapy. All I gotta say is it really isn't her fault, and I really want to make that known. If you relate to this story at all, this is not on you. I don't know, it just makes me extremely sad and upset when I hear children being taken advantage of in this way, even if it is from other children. But to do it with cousins and siblings, that's even worse. And I really hope as these two mature, that doesn't continue in their family. But I think I'm going to leave the video off there. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me reading these stories as much as I did reading these stories. Some of them were pretty funny and others were downright horrific and terrible to read. But if you guys did enjoy the stories, do not forget to go visit some of these OPs down below in the description. If you ever want to send me a story, I also have an email down below. And, if you're a sponsor, you can also, go down below too. But with that all said and done, if you guys enjoyed the video today, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe. But with that all said and done, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.